All right, put the recording in. And we are now in the segment where In Case Tribe Called Success will read some excerpts from their books, their upcoming work. There's Decadence, which is an erotic anthology. We have Evanescence, which is a paranormal anthology, as well as Affluence, which is the mystery anthology. And then we have Queens of the Castle that's coming out next year. In addition to 92 Days of Pleasure series that's coming out next year. So the Queens of the Castle series, the 92 Days of Pleasure series. And then we have the Forbidden Project, which is and the Ladies of the Castle that's coming out in 2023. So yeah, now it's time for the ladies to rule. We did the kings and the knights, so now it's time for the women to show up and show out. So, okay, so Ashley, Stephanie, SF Hardy, as we'd like to say, you want to start us off with a little wickedness up there? Let's see what you're made of. That she's transferring. I'm sorry. Let's hear from Raven. You got to take that off so we can change your persona.
The name change.
The scarf is all wholesome and all of that stuff. We need to dirty you up a little bit so you can read the wicked stuff as Raven stuff.
That part.
Okay. My story is called Sunflowers Bloom Late. And it's about a 40-year-old woman who was recently divorced and has never experienced an orgasm. My friends, all things must come to an end, and here's ours. We are in our final descent to Chicago Midway International Airport, and I'm Captain Adu. It was a pleasure to fly you. Please prepare for a safe landing and enjoy your stay in Chicago or wherever your final destination may be. Thank you for choosing Southwest Airlines. Ma'am, please put your tray table up and your seat in the upright position. The flight attendant gently nudged Imani, waking her. That was quick. Imani inconspicuously wipes the slop of her chin before she stretched, stalked by remnants of her dream that loitered in her mind and her lace tangas. It was just a short flight from Detroit to Chicago, the woman seated next to her responded, startling her. Imani examined the floor of the seat ahead of her in search of her purse. Relieved by its presence, she cupped her hands to her mouth and blew, deciding it was safe to speak without offending anyone with her breath. She turned to her seatmate. I hope I didn't snore. Nope, the woman presented a friendly smile. You didn't snore at all, but you were moaning, she added with a wink. Oh, brother, Imani gasped, casting her head to her lap where she immediately noticed two engorgements peeking from her blouse. Moaned? Are you positive I was moaning? I don't moan. Never had a reason to. Imani tilted her head back and waited for the woman's explanation. Yes, moan. The woman's head bobbled. You also bantered about your ex-husband and went on about how he was the only man you had been intimate with and how he never gave you an orgasm. She offered Imani her hand. My name is Amy, by the way. Imani accepted. I'm Imani. She involuntarily hesitated getting her name out. This is so awkward. She abruptly released Amy's hand. Don't be embarrassed. The woman placed a reassuring hand on Imani's shoulder. Unfortunately, there are a lot of women who don't even know what an orgasm is, let alone having experienced one. Shoot, I was one of them until I met my husband, Taj. She turned to her sleeping husband. Imani gave the chocolate statuesque man a cursory glance. He took me to a swingers meet and greet as a part of our first date. Swingers? I'm not sure I understand, Imani admitted to her ignorance. Help me understand you correctly, she squinted. He took you to a place where people swap couples and have group sex? And you agreed? Imani asked incredulously. Well, sexual acts are not a part of the meet and greets, Amy explained. Like you, I was appalled initially by his audaciousness, but within a matter of minutes, I found the club environment to be subtly arousing. I have never told anyone this before, but Taj and I did more than kiss on our first date, Amy confided in Imani. How long have you been married? we've been celebrating we're celebrating our 10th anniversary tonight. Well, this entire weekend, really, Amy smiled. You two are marriage and swinger unicorns, Imani joked. Before meeting you, I was sure marriage, swingers, and orgasms were something real only in fiction. Is Chicago your final destination? Amy inquired. Yes, I'm here to celebrate. My divorce was finally granted yesterday after 6 months of literal and figurative torture. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. No need to be sorry. I'm relieved and thankful for my second chance at life. Once again, I'm here to celebrate, not mope. Are you celebrating alone? Where are your friends? Amy asked with furrowed brows. And I'm going to leave it there.
Okay. I thought you was gonna make that a member of the Mile High Club. I'm just saying. Yeah. A lot taking place on that plane. I mean, total strangers having that conversation. Whoa.
It's weird, but it's true. I mean, I fly a lot, and I tend to notice that people like to talk to me on the plane, and I learn about stuff that I never expected people to talk to me about. And so
same. Same.
Wow. So this is your first foray into writing adult books. Why are you making this step now? And let me show everyone a picture of Decadence. This is one of the covers. I can't put my hands on the other cover real quick, but this one. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Very good. They make the pages wet. Yeah. Okay. So why now? Why make this move into adult books now?
Actually, this isn't my first. In 2007, I published a book of short stories that was smut. But my reasoning for writing the stories was to engage my best friend in reading. The only way she'll read is if it's nasty. So while the stories don't have a lot of substance, not a lot of storyline, I was able to reach a lot of reluctant readers. And for me, that was very gratifying. It was also very scary because at the time I was in my 20s. I was working in a jail and subbing at one of the facilities, and I gave the book to one of the commanders. She was a woman, and she went home and read the book and came back Monday and banned the book because it was just it was a little too risque for the inmates to have. So while I wasn't trying to put it in the
system
jail, but and they didn't purchase books for the inmates anyways. However, also, talking to members of the community, I had an internal conflict. I mean, I appreciated why I wrote the book, but I also took stock into what some of my elders would say. And that was like, with all the things going on in the world, why would you, write stuff like this? And then sometimes I was scared to approach certain people about the book, women, some of the older nurses that worked in the jail and outside, but they were like the main ones wanting to read it. They're like, don't keep this from us. But it was hard to do at that time. I'm a little more open now, and I really want to try my hand at seeing if this is something that I can be successful at. But I still I get the instant gratification from writing the children's stories. Mm-hmm. The adult takes, it takes a lot to produce a book, no matter what you're doing.
Agreed.
The time frame and my ADHD, writing the adult stories is kind of conflicting.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Indeed. So I'm going to bring up our brother, where there's only 2 men in the tribe. We have 50 people in the tribe. We've got the Namaste tribe, and we've got the Namakir. The Namaste are the babies of the family. Mm-hmm. And I'm waiting for everybody to finish their watching the video so they can catch up with Namakir. Namakir is the main tribe. So the babies of the family, they're preparing to start getting in because they're going to be doing anthologies series and that sort of thing to help to build up their brand along with the main tribe. So we're looking forward to that. So, and Namakir is Naleighna, Marze, and Shakir. And Namaste is Naleighna, Marze, and Stephanie. Those are the team leaders for each of the tribes. And eventually I will be breaking the tribes up even more I'm training leaders. I'm not training followers. I'm building, not training, building leaders so that they branch off and start their own tribes. And then there's a group of people that they know, they come to us. They're not going to be misused or used. They are going to learn the right way to do things, or they get their questions answered, and they're not going to flounder in this process. And that's what the tribe is really about. You've got people, we know each other on a personal level. I know something about each one person, and they know my personal stuff. So I know when something's going on, and they can pick up the phone and call me and talk to me about personal stuff. It's not just book, because what you put in your books and your writing are your experiences. But the book part is only a part of your life, but also the tribe supports the rest of your life. And that's really, it's been a beautiful thing. I learned as much from tribe as they learned from me. And that is a key point. So let me share this so you all can see what he's about to tear down for us right here with this little Tempest right here. Yeah, got that whole shockwave going back there with that lightning, and she looked like she up to no good. So let me hear what that's about.
Tempest is the third in my Nubian Underworld series. I actually have my power couple has a private island in the Caribbean that can be used for things that can't be always done here in the States without law enforcement interference, so to speak. So they literally had a whole weekend there with various invited guests, private invitation, all that other good stuff. And the actual snippet I'm reading from is the actual starting point for the entire event. So I'll go with that from there. Excuse me. The hypnotic firelight danced against the luminous moonlight, seducing it like a lover, welcoming the object of her desire home from a long day's work. The familiar thudding of the floggers laced with fire against the lower back and across the ass of the young submissive being sacrificed to the spirits of the evening kept the crowd mesmerized. She moaned and cooed as each strike against her quivering flesh left indelible marks that she would surely show off in the morning light. Next, the intimacy of the fire gloves. The soft wine soon turned into gasps and screams as the gloves caressed her exposed skin. Her eyes looked entranced as she focused on the flickers of the flame licking against her tender flesh. To the left of where Osiris was as he lit up the night sky, another equally skilled master of the arts, Master Amenhotep, was performing a rare appearance with Paka, showcasing his legendary skills as an electrical play aficionado. As the casual observer watched, the current resembling lightning in the distance, the electricity seemed to flow freely from his fingertips onto her wetting flesh below. Paka screams as the electrical surges coursed through her extremities, causing her toes to curl as the currents teased and lapped at her clitoral recesses. He changed to using the gloves that resembled those of a cat's claw to elicit a stronger response from her, and she did not disappoint as the moment the metal touched skin. The crowd was comprised of some of the most renowned kinksters and libertines in the U.S. and abroad. Despite the coolness of the evening, they enjoyed the festivities and the night's entertainment. Everyone was transported to this oasis, tucked away in the Caribbean, for more than a week of debauchery, sensual decadence, and unbridled passion and delights of the flesh. Amenhotep likened the get-together to hedonism in Jamaica, but the patrons and attendants knew the moment they stepped off the private chartered jets that this would be a little more intense than hedonism could ever hope to be. As the scenes continued, a drum circle provided the soundtrack as the rhythmic thumping against the tightly woven canvases that was complemented by the delectable sight of scantily clad women dancing in harmonious sync with the drummers, hips swaying, pleasurable posteriors of the thickest variety rolling and grinding, weapons of mass destruction finding their targets and their tactical precision. There would be no limit of what may transpire in this tropical paradise. I think the natives are beginning to get a little restless, beloved, Nefertari observed as she stroked the back of Amani's head. He was completely enthralled by the sights in front of him, more so because Shamis was among the dancers. Well, you're right, beloved. I think it's time to let things take their natural course for the rest of the night. I smiled as Sajira knelt contently in the sand against my outside hip. I honestly didn't know or want to move because I enjoyed the energy and essence that she gave me to indulge in, but business must be attended to. As I stood, I gave a hand gesture to the drummers to slow their pace so that my voice could be heard over the drums. Upon hearing their change in cadence and volume, Osiris and Amenhotep stopped their scenes, much to the chagrin of their respective properties. They turned in my direction to provide their full attention. I walked toward the open area so the crowd could hear me over the waves crashing in the background, with Sajira crawling behind me, waiting to take her position once I settled on a space suitable for the announcement. Shamis, noticing that I was about to speak, led the dozen or so dancers toward me, kneeling at my feet, before taking my hand to kiss the back of my palm. The rest of the dance troupe took kneeling positions around me, waiting for my cue to alert the drummers to cease. After kissing my palm, she leaned over to share a kiss with Sajira before taking her position opposite side of me. Welcome, honored guests and beloved friends, to the grand opening of the Al Nibin Benir, or the Island of Evil Pleasures. My beloved and I, along with our house and the staff and personnel on the island, hope that you enjoy your stay with us this week, I announced, as Nefertari and Amani made their way to the circle that the dancers formed. I shared a brief but passionate kiss with her, eliciting whistles and shouts from the crowd. After breaking the kiss, I stared into her eyes for a few more moments before continuing my speech. While your travel and accommodations have been provided, any luxuries you indulge into, including any of the non-service slaves, will be at your expense. Breakfast will be served bright and early tomorrow morning, and anyone who wishes to tour the island will be afforded the opportunity to do so. Enjoy your evening, and we bid you good night. And that's the beginning of Tempest.
All right then. Y'all not reading that 10 minutes. Y'all getting that in a little short style here. So I'm like, okay. Well, thank you so much. I think you said you got to do some rolling out with the women folks.
Yeah, the women folk are currently handling Christmas decor, so I need to go ahead and start doing some of the heavy lifting. So I will bid you all adieu, and hopefully the rest of the evening turns out as wonderfully as I expect.
Indeed, we had a good time last night. One Gotta Go is one of our biggest. We're gonna do book bingo tonight, but One Gotta Go and library card revoked. I are the biggest, I would say, sellers in this.
Nothing new under that sun. It figures that.
Indeed. Okay, so well, we will catch up with you. I think you're not on tomorrow. Are you on tomorrow?
Yeah, I am on tomorrow. I'm hosting Jan Jan.
Yes. So make sure you drop her a line.
Yeah, I'll definitely see if I can find something out beforehand so we can kind of go from there.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. And then there were two. So I am going to go next because I want to concentrate when it comes to Miss Stephanie. I love her stuff. Let me share a bit about my books right here. Indeed, that's just a few of my books I've got going on, but I'm going to read from one that's not shown here. A couple of them is, let's see here. Let me open up the Microsoft Word document because I had it already here. I am going to read a little bit from, let's see here. I want to read from Rich Woman's Fetish. That is a story. It is Gina Wright escapes a hellacious life by doing the unthinkable, selling the use of her womb to the highest bidder among rich, childless couples from more affluent areas of Chicago. She even accommodates their special requests, ranging from participating in forbidden fetishes to more complicated liaisons. Gina uses them to amass a fortune, then sets out to fulfill her own dream, one that is shattered in an instant when a freakish accident steals a gift she has always taken for granted. Years later, Gina learns that one of her surrogate daughters has been forced into the illicit world of drugs and prostitution. When the police and FBI turn a blind eye, Gina risks the anger of her former sponsors and lovers to have their children search for their younger sister they knew nothing about. One daughter turns to a criminal mastermind to help locate the teen. Another puts her career in jeopardy when she seeks justice in her own deadly way. The search puts a dangerous spin on their already chaotic lives as the women learn more about trust and love and how to depend on each other to do the impossible. So we're looking at a little section of where she came from. Rich Woman's Fetish. The bedroom door creaked open. 16-year-old Gina inched her arm under the pillow and relaxed, waiting. He had rigged the lock so it wouldn't catch all the way. Nothing she had done to reverse it had worked. Mama Bessie's funeral was 2 days away. If Ted continued to make the wrong moves, he would join his father on the wrong side of glory, since his mother definitely wouldn't welcome him home into heaven. She slowly moved the gun down by her side under the comforter. And I hate to say it, Mama Bessie had said, but if something happens to me, even my son isn't going to do right by you. He's not going to see taking care of you as carrying on my obligation. He's going to see you as another woman he can get his hands on, like his weak, pitiful wife. Heifer should have left him the first time he hit her. But he's always been so nice to me, Gina protested. Mama Bessie scoffed. That's because he doesn't have any power over you, yet. Ted halted at the edge of the bed. Gina forced her breathing to stay even. The smell of whiskey and musk overpowered all the other scents in the room. He lunged toward the bed and pinned her body with his weight. Gina cocked George, a Colt 45, and jammed it right at Ted's exposed genitals. You'll have a hard time explaining what happened to your nuts. Ted froze. Only his eyes moved as he locked on Gina's hard glare and growled, if you're not giving it up, then you got to go. I think I got that message loud and clear, she replied dryly, keeping her eyes focused on him. So why did you feel it necessary to come in here at 2 a.m. to say it again? Put the gun away, he said through his teeth, and let's talk about it. Put your dick away or George will be the end of the conversation. Ted, Patricia's soft whisper echoed behind them. He scrambled off the bed and stumbled backward into the dresser, knocking over the tiny bottles of perfume and Mama Bessie's pitcher before landing on the floor. He struggled to stand as Gina reached out and switched on the lamp next to her bed to unveil his limp penis, greeting the early morning chill. Gina's metal friend was gripped tightly in her right hand. Oh, sorry. He grabbed his head as though a headache was coming on. I stumbled into the wrong room. Again? Patricia shot back, leaning on the door jamb as she tightened the belt around her robe. Ted shook his head vigorously and swallowed hard. I was on the way to the bathroom and I just... He reached down, pulled up his zipper, and turned to his wife. Why aren't you asleep? Patricia's hands were balled into fists. A vein throbbed at her ivory temple. Go back to bed, Ted. He threw one last scathing look in Gina's direction as he stalked off, brushing past his wife on the way out. That was Rich Woman's Fetish. I am going to read a little bit from My Time in the Sun. My Time in the Sun. Kari's perfect life comes to a screeching halt when her husband's enemy stands and tells the entire congregation, our first lady was a 14-year-old prostitute. She barely survived a horrific experience when she was forced to take drastic measures to protect an innocent child. Years later, she finally put the past behind, owns a successful business, and is married to a wonderful man who loves her like no other. All the sordid secrets that she'd managed to keep hidden, even from her husband, resurfaces with a vengeance when Terrence Henderson, a man who is hell-bent on destroying everything they've built, shares her past with everyone and causes a rift that is not easily mended. Tony Baltimore's plans for the saints to take the street church to the streets and put their money and actions to good use has always been met with staunch opposition by the board, deacons, and members. They believe that staying on the safe side of Chicago's major issues suits them just fine. This gives Terrence a way in, as he uses strong family ties to publicly disgrace Kari as a surefire way to take over a now wealthy church membership. A media firestorm ensues and a heated membership split follows. Tony makes strategic moves to protect his wife from everyone who's coming against her, including members who are so heavenly minded that they are no earthly good. When the betrayal has done too much damage to repair and the smoke clears, no one will ever be the same. So this is a scene from the first chapter in the book. And it starts with, I cut him until I felt better. I cut him until I felt better. The words in their chilly delivery caused an icy silence to descend on the police interview room. Seconds ticked by before a blonde officer whispered, everyone, out. 3 hours ago, 2 uniformed men were the first to arrive on the scene at a penthouse in the heart of downtown Memphis, where a man named Daddy housed a stable of teens that serviced clients with an array of wicked tastes. Those officers gave Kari a lingering look and threw a glare at the blonde before trudging toward the steel door. When it closed behind them, a ring of finality lingered in the dimly lit room that would only be matched by that of prison bars clanging shut, separating Kari from the outside world. Yes, that was what she had to look forward to, because I cut him until I felt better. Flashes of his blood spreading on the faded carpet and his screams for mercy echoed in the corners of her memory. All it took was the appearance of another innocent to incite Kari to do the one thing that would stop her suffering and that of others. She stood at the edge of the bed and witnessed his gasp of surprise, his eyes widening in shock. He mirrored the horror she felt over an action that she'd taken to protect one who could not protect herself. After 2 years within Daddy's clutches, 16-year-old Kari Mason had done whatever it took to ensure that her nightmare would finally end and someone else's would never begin. Tell me what happened, the officer commanded, sliding a half-filled notepad to the other side of the metal table. Then she went to a console and switched off the speaker that allowed those on the opposite side of the mirrored glass to listen in. Don't I need a lawyer? Kari asked in a bland tone that spoke to the fact that she was beyond feeling much of anything, including remorse. Shock, maybe, but not an ounce of remorse. The blonde took hold of Kari's upper arm, holding it firmly but not roughly, guiding her to a chair with his back to the glass. The floral scent of the woman's perfume permeated the air, bringing a warmth that the starkness of the gray walls couldn't provide. Sit, she commanded, nodding toward the seat, blue eyes flashing with some type of unfamiliar emotion, thin pink lips pressed into a hard line. Tell me what happened. Kari closed her eyes for a moment, summoning any ounce of strength she had left. Most of it had abandoned her the moment she saw Daddy for the monster he was. The same moment she realized she had left the safety of her parents' household and traveled 900 miles with a predator who had every intention of using her until she died. And the girls all died at some point. She stopped counting after the first 19. I disobeyed him, Kari admitted. And this time he was going to send me to the Slicer. The Slicer? A John who specialized in killing a girl. Kari swallowed around the lump in her throat. One piece at a time. The blonde grimaced, tried to keep her expression neutral, but when her anxious gaze flickered toward the glass, Kari could tell she was familiar with that type of crime. I told Daddy I couldn't do it anymore. The men, so many of them, every day. She whispered in a wearied voice that she barely recognized as her own. I was tired, so tired. The tears came, and she was surprised that she had any left to shed. Kari turned her face to the woman sitting across from her, a woman who had given her name, but it still escaped Kari whenever she tried to remember. So she was just the blonde for now. I was tired of knowing what new thing they do to me. I was tired of men beating me, hurting me, doing all manner of whatever to me, like I didn't matter, like I was never somebody's something. Kari wiped her tears with the back of a trembling hand. A hollow place within her soul had absorbed everything worth mentioning. It had felt that way for a long time. The slicer would have ended all of that for me, and I accepted that. But it wouldn't have helped the new girl Daddy brought in. The blonde's gaze narrowed and she shifted that much closer. What was so different about her? She's the youngest one, Kari replied, lowering her gaze to the remnants of her half-eaten meal as the image of the raven-haired child with expressive dark brown eyes came to mind. She couldn't have been more than 6, 7. The blonde stiffened. A vein throbbed at her ivory temple, making Kari question if unburdening her soul to an officer of the law was a smart thing. Someone had to tell the story, right? Especially since the chance that Kari wouldn't be alive became a greater reality the longer she remained in this room. I cut him until I felt better. That story is based on a true story. My sister and my niece were both victims of child sex trafficking. My sister was 17 at the time, and that was before they did background checks on men who worked in high schools. And he was an ex-con working in the lunchroom, and she fell for him, and she ran away from home with him. And she was out on the streets down in Memphis for years. And the things that she endured, the children that he beat out of her, strung her out on drugs. It was so much that she went through. And when she finally made it out, I remember there was a time, I would think I was about 8 or 9, and she came back and he had scalded her because she tried to leave. And she was scalded from the back, her lower back, all the way to the top of her neck, right here, right behind the shoulders. And all you could see was pink meat. And we were in Cook County Hospital. And we were there all night. She had rode on the bus, a Greyhound bus from Memphis, and she had to ride with her head on the seat in front of her because she couldn't lean back. She had a halter top on because all of that skin was exposed. And we took her to Cook County Hospital. I was a little girl. I'll never remember that they bandaged her up, and she was on her way back to him the very next day. And when she finally got out for good, she came home and she managed to have 2 children. And at age 14, my niece was a victim of child sex trafficking. And it was a very trying time for the family. So my time in the sun is me capturing my sister's voice and my niece's voice. They're both no longer here. And I capture it in a first lady who does not believe in God because of all the horrible things that happened to her growing up. And in capturing this, it goes through my shaky faith because of the things that I experienced growing up. And my faith was hella shaky. I didn't get it out there. I got mine closer to home. So we wonder, where was God when all of these ugly things happened? So in writing My Time in the Sun, I wrote this book in about 4 or 5 days because I needed something for the cavalcade that year and nothing else was working quite right. But this story came and it came and it came and it came. And it was their voice and it was their experiences. It is me trying to find my way back to God through writing. It is a powerful story, My Time in the Sun. And in this, she meets a man he's a minister. He wasn't a minister when she first met him, but he didn't know that she believed in God. She was playing her part as first lady. But he didn't know until this man broke her past in front of the entire church congregation. He did not know he was married to a woman who did not believe in God, but loved him enough to support him in whatever he did. And this split in the church in this book, where he has to realize, hey, Y'all can have a church, but I took vows with this woman, and I got to see about my woman. I wrote the beauty of a man who loves God, and he understands, because he's got a past too. But in seeing what her belief is or her non-belief he's not trying to convert her. He's mostly trying to heal that part. And he's wondering what part of him was not comfortable for her to share her past with him. He's counseled up many women with this experience. What part of him was it that she did not feel comfortable coming to him? This is what this book explores, is his relationship with this woman as his church is falling apart. And he's keeping that commitment to God that he made when it comes to this woman. And it's the most beauty that I could pull out of such a tragic situation. So that's my rendering for today. And I'm going to turn this over to Stephanie. I'm sorry. I read this all the time, and I don't know why it's affecting me today. That reading it and understanding what my sister and my niece went through is touching me a little different today. You know, you can write it and you can kind of separate it because it didn't necessarily happen to you that way. But now I feel it, because even though I wasn't out in the street with it, I still have had that level of damage and that level of pain. And I write about my stuff in other books, but this was their voice. This was their story, because no one was there to tell their story. And there was a time that my mother prayed for and she helped other teens when my sister was out there. She said she's hoping that when she's helping some other teenagers, that somebody was down there helping her baby girl. And God finally did hear that prayer. But I don't think my sister has never been quite right. My niece, and this probably is why I'm feeling it, my niece began to be bipolar, schizophrenic, all of these things that happened with her result of being out there. And then she was getting better. She was getting so much better. And then she was at this place, mental hospital here in Chicago, and she wanted to go back to school. And the man, her counselor, told her, why would you want to do that? You'll never attain more than a 14-year-old mentality. My niece died 2 weeks after that. I think she was ready to check out because she didn't feel hope. Those words brought death to her. When we say life and death is in the power of the tongue, those words brought death to her. She gave up at that point. This is their voice, because they're no longer here. She's no longer here to tell her story. So, Stephanie, oh God, okay. I am going to open it up so you can tell us a little bit about your book and do your reading.
Thank you for your transparency. Thank you for sharing your wound with us. Know that we carry it with you. And we hold you. We hug you. So, and your sister and your niece.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Well, my name is Stephanie Freman. I have a series called it's called Diamonds, Blood, and Shadows series. And first book out of that series is Necessary Evil. And one of the pieces that I'm asked to read quite often is from the upcoming book, Season of the Blood, which is the 4th installment. So I'll read from that. I am not one or the other. Names are petty and mine never fit no how. It's enough that I exist. Profound and profane is good enough for me. I am perfect in my otherness. Believe that. I am something else. Such a simple truth dogged me from the time I was born. Can't say my parents love me, understand. On the outside, I resembled every little girl all decked out in barrettes and bows. Under my skirts, well, that was another story entirely. Never thought anything was right or wrong with me until the game started with Daddy. I won't bore you with the particulars. Spare me the sympathy and the tears and the guilt that passes for sympathy. All you need to know is that by my 12th birthday, Daddy was in the ground and I put him there. Planted him better than any undertaker or gardener. You don't get to know how I finished him neither. All you need to know is that he died screaming. Made damn sure that. I even joined him at one point. Screaming, that is. Laughed a little too. Mama married again, and you'd think that bitch would trade up. And the grunts and groans and the occasional gag before she bolted to the bathroom served as a marker. What she couldn't abide, more or less let slide, I was assigned to. Keep the peace? Hell, maybe to take her place on account of the new baby on the way. Out with the old and in with the new, I guess. Hoped it wasn't true. Prayed it wasn't true. But then I heard the creak in the floor and my doorknob turned. You know how that go. Can't stay anywhere for free. Frying pan to the fire, rolled out with a sweater crumpled in my pocket. Won't tell you how I earned that on my first night's peace. You see, my otherness had its perks and its buyers. Some meaner than others, but it was business, nothing personal. Snuffling back blood and spitting out a tooth or two make you humble and mean. I chose the latter and had a good run, till I didn't. That was where she found me. Hair like flames, green eyes like hellfire. Never said a word. Just sat there in an alley that reeked of piss, vomit, and my own fear. Sat there as fine as you please, on a wooden milk crate next to the pile of garbage I'd been thrown in. Followed her, I don't know how many city blocks. Thought I lost her in the shadow of the streetlights. It was almost daylight before we got to where she was going. She unlocked the door to an apartment and went in, leaving the choice to me. It is one I will never regret. That's why I'm here, with gray eyes, sagging breasts, and a silver bed to match. Filed my teeth down to points and forked my tongue. Can lick many things in many directions, and I often do. People think me a monster, and I am. I live, lie, and fuck all in equal measure. Male, female, or something else on the menu. Hell, I don't discriminate. I run it all, buy it all, and sell it all. It's what I am, who I am, and what I do. And I'm good at it. With a shot glass in one hand and a blunt dangling from the corner of my mouth, I am what your mama couldn't conjure in her worst night terror. But to her, not mama, you dumb shit. The one that saved my life and straightened my crown of bones. To her, I'm blood. I'd kill or die for her. And that's even after I betrayed her.
Wow, that's from the upcoming season of the Blood. Let me show a little bit here, and we've got some more tribe members that are going to come in. But yeah, season of the Blood. That's this one right here on the far right. And she's working on that one right now. Should be out in January. So, but the one Necessary Evil, Unfinished Business, Nature of the Beast, those are out right now. And she's also in 3 of the anthologies with the tribe: Affluence, Evanescence, and Decadence. So she'll be all in those. So there are a few more tribe members I'm going to bring in right now. Pat George Walker is in the audience, and she's out and about, but she's sending some waves there. And we've got Marze. Let me pull in Marze Scott. She has that. I may bring you back for another reading of Necessary Evil, because that's something that's out right now. So let's see here. Okay, she should be joining us in a hot second. Thank you all for staying with us. All right, we've got Marze Scott in the house. She's got the blonde in today. Yes, and just got back from doing a lot of family stuff. And what are you going to read for us today?
I'll be reading from my my debut book, baby, Gemini Rising.
Okay, hold it up just a little bit more. Yes. Okay, then I don't have to show it because you've got it right there. Okay.
Okay. This novel was inspired by the story of Centoya Brown. When I'm a late bloomer, so I went to college 38-ish. And at the time that I had attended college, Centoya Brown was a subject of one of my sociology classes. And they were talking about young girls who were trafficked, and she ended up killing one of her Johns. And so in my mind, her story was so sad, and I felt like she needed to have a happy ending. And so I wrote an alternate story to the one that I learned, to give her, to figure out what would have happened if she had not killed that man. And the story was born from there. And so I'll read some for you. Pleasant memories blurred into a world of darkness the moment my mother gave me to Gillespie Angel Davis. The man did not live up to the beauty of his name. Several girls who walked the streets of Cincinnati every night to bring him that cold hard cash could attest to that fact, and others. Now, 12 years later, the mirror in a darkened apartment bedroom shows the reflection of a woman I once knew. Angel calls her Gemini. Her father named her Aisha Yasmin Mosley. The beauty of that name does not jive with the woman in the silver glass. Hazel eyes glare back at me, chastising me for not knowing who owns the curly auburn hair, the swan-like neck, and honey beige skin. Orbs that bear resemblance to my Persian mother's bedroom eyes have seen far too much. The same eyes that examined the high cheekbones and full lips that were inherited from a Sudanese father now taunt the reflection in the foyer mirror in the first floor apartment Angel leased to be the humble beginnings of his budding enterprise. The shadow person mimics every movement, every facial expression, commands me to pay attention, reminding me she's not totally lost. Most days, I wish to forget how I got here. In this place, where something as simple as remembering to buy tahini to make my favorite meal of chicken shawarma and rice becomes more unfamiliar as time passes. When Angel's clients look into my eyes, what do they really see? They say I'm beautiful. If I'm so beautiful, why continue to break me? Then there's Zephyr Gray. He only knows the woman he sees at the office. He has no idea about my past or what happens when I leave the building. Zephyr has proven time after time that there's a vested interest in seeing me succeed. He is the exact opposite of Angel. How would Zephyr feel if he knew the truth? Once, a long time ago, visits to Belle Isle on an early Sunday morning, walk along the Detroit River with my family was commonplace. A time before my innocence was a commodity traded for a nightmare. Flying away has crossed my mind more times than I care to admit. But how does a bird fly with clipped wings? I just want to go home. Only weeks before my 10th birthday, a dark blue sedan slowly approached the front yard where I played with Nina, a friend who had brought her dolls over to hold our make-believe class. The car pulled up and parked in front of my house. I paused and glanced up in time to see a boy not much older than me slide out the driver's seat. The stranger walked past us without speaking. Seconds later, his brown knuckles rapped against the front door. My mother answered wearing black leggings and one of my father's t-shirts that practically swallowed her petite frame. Brief eye contact and a smile between the two were exchanged before the teenager entered the house close in step behind my mother. A feeling of discomfort worked knots in my stomach as questions churned in my mind. Nina and I focused on our plastic students as we were teaching them how to spell words our teacher gave us to study in our summer homework packets. Aisha, come here, my mother yelled, cutting through the giggles that came as a result of not being able to remember how to spell possibility. Yes, ma'am, coming, I answered, dropping the dolls into Nina's lap. My feet moved as though they were on fire. Keeping my mother waiting too long would result in pain that meant I couldn't walk for hours. Panting from the short run from the front yard into the living room, I managed a breathy, yes, ma'am? I have a friend I want you to meet, she said in a cool tone that I recognized as irritation. My father and brother died in a car accident a few months before on Memorial Day after making a bakery run for cupcakes that I wanted. Ever since that day, she stayed annoyed with me for everything, from the way I washed the dishes to how I wore my socks. A shudder went through my body the second my mother introduced me to Ryan. He didn't have a menacing appearance. On the contrary, Ryan was a teenage boy. He didn't look menacing in appearance at all. He was tall with cinnamon skin, dressed in faded black jeans with holes in the legs and sparkly threads. His gray hoodie with block letters across the chest was warmer than needed for an average day in July. The diamond stud glinted in his left ear in the same manner as his teeth when he gave me what was supposed to be a comforting smile. His sneakers were bright white, as though he spent every waking hour keeping them clean. Nothing I could name made this boy threatening in any way. I have to run an errand, she said, though she didn't grab her favorite red leather purse or move toward the front entrance. I need you to go with Ryan. His father and your father were friends, all right? But Mama? She shot a green-eyed glare at me that told me to shut up and fast. You'll be fine. Yes, ma'am. Something wasn't right. Even from my mother's usually sour moods, she was distant. No, she was absent. She remained on the huge plush white sectional sofa in the living room, staring through a picture window of our suburban 2-story home as she made a hollow effort to console me. Ryan stood near the entrance holding a large golden envelope. Her card and certificate are in the envelope, she said, making no attempt to leave or match up with the words spoken earlier. My gaze shifted between my mother, Ryan, and the envelope he held as moisture pooled in the palm of my hand. Mama, I'm scared. The small, fearful voice of a 9-year-old girl echoed in the cozy room. Sadly, it was my voice. I said, you'll be fine, Aisha, she snapped, pulling her dark, waist-length hair toward the front of her body. Then graceful fingers combed through her thick mane, something she only did when she was bored. Thank you for watching, Aisha, she said to Ryan. I'll be contacting you soon. Ryan nodded but said nothing. He smiled at me for a moment as though assuring me that everything would be all right. Then he extended his hand in my direction. I didn't make a move to place my smaller one in his. Instead, I turned a lingering look on the woman on the sofa. When will you be back, Mama? I'll call for you, she said dryly, hands twisting the auburn locks, but for some reason unable to make the long braid that normally graced her head. Be a good girl and listen to Ryan, all right? No, it wasn't all right. She had never sent me anyplace else for someone to babysit me while she ran errands. I followed Ryan purely being obedient to my mother to the dark blue sedan that had arrived and interrupted the happiest moment of my day. The July sun, perched high in the afternoon sky, hurt my eyes and nearly blinded me as I walked out of the house. Hey, Aisha, where are you going? Nina asked, concern etched in her ivory face as she stared at Ryan. I simply shrugged. Even if the huge lump in my throat would allow me to speak, I didn't have an answer. So I followed Ryan, my gaze taking in the cracks along the familiar concrete path leading to the curb. Ryan opened the rear passenger door, and I slid across the warm plush upholstery to the door behind the front passenger seat. Ryan's smile was warm and kind as he closed the door. My eyes left his and shifted toward the house, willing the uneasy feelings to go away. Peering through the window, I needed to see if my mother was standing at the door. The front door closed without her stepping into the doorway. I was never much of a crybaby, something my father said made me his big girl. But in that instant, hot tears welled in my eyes. My heart pounded in my ears as I struggled to hold in the urge to wail. I took a deep breath, my body trembling as though in the beginning stages of convulsions. Inhale, inhale. Finally, a slow, pitiful hiss let loose behind teeth pressed together so tightly that my jaw stung. Who is Ryan? And why can't I go to the store with my mama? Where is Ryan taking me? All of these questions and more swirled in my mind, so much that my head pounded in the same frantic rhythm as my heartbeat. The dolls splayed across the front lawn were swiftly forgotten. Nina's face, as sad looking as her favorite character, Eeyore, was soon swept to the background, replaced by, I just wanted my mama. As cold as she was, I just wanted my mama. As mean as she could be, I just wanted my mama. The faster the blue car peeled down the street of Dearborn, Michigan, a harsh reality set in. This might be the last time I'd lay eyes on her again. And it was.
Wow. 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 Yeah, Gemini, hold the book up for us again, please. Indeed. Rising. That's your debut novel.
This is my debut novel. She is also who made me a national bestseller. I'm very proud.
Yes, indeed.
My baby.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. There are two members here. I've got to represent for tribe member Karen D. Bradley as she's recovering. And she's doing some stuff for the tribe behind the scenes and doing a lot of analytics and things that will help us in the long run. So she can't split that focus. She's got to do what she has to do for the whole tribe. So I'm going to read a bit from her confection assignment. Let me pull that on the screen. And then we're going to do confection assignment and then another piece. And then I will go into book bingo. I believe that's going to be the game for tonight. Hold on. Confection assignment by Karen D. Bradley. And this is a man who is an inventor. His name is Calvin. He's an inventor, super genius. And he's invented something that so many different governments want to get their hand on. They have to hire him a bodyguard, personal one, happens to be a woman. And she is badass. All right, the confection assignment by Karen D. Bradley. Mia's head snapped up at a sound that wasn't anything like the faint echoes of music from the other end of the lake. For some reason, her instinct was on high alert, especially since the additional security team was missing in action. Having dinner out here was a great idea, Mia said for the sake of their nosy neighbor, Patty, who was walking in their direction as Calvin approached the table. The older woman wasn't any cause for concern. You like me cooking for you. He brought out the spaghetti and salad, slid it on the table, then leaned in, kissing Mia. He wrapped his arm around her waist, nuzzling her neck. Maybe we should have dessert first. I'll not be reheating dinner tonight. Pushing him away, she turned him back toward the house, then swatted that gorgeous rear end of his to send him on his way. You need to grab those breadsticks. I'll open the wine. Calvin, who had never married, enjoyed playing the role of a husband a little too much. He winked before stepping off the planks and into the dining room. He paused at the door and glanced over his shoulder. We need to do this more often. Most often wouldn't happen. Tonight was the last day of her assignment. Then she'd be back to her regular life, and that didn't include being a high security detail protector to a top secret invention and its handsome creator. Several minutes later, she poured him a glass of red wine before fixing their plates. She scanned the area again and a tingle of suspicion ignited in her mind. What's taking him so long? Calvin, today would be nice, Mia yelled. She perched on the chair, waiting for his smart response. None came. Mia placed the glass on the table and swept into the house. Calvin wasn't in the kitchen. If he had slipped into his office to work instead of joining her outside, there was going to be trouble. Mia laid eyes on Calvin as she rounded the corner, but his voice halted her in her tracks. Run, Mia, run! Calvin yelled, lunging for the stocky Asian man near the office door. A hefty black guy slammed his weapon across the back of Calvin's head. Mia sprinted down the hallway past the study and powder room, aiming to get her weapon. She kicked herself for not bringing it inside. They wouldn't kill Calvin, but they could hurt him if he didn't cooperate. She slid a cast iron skillet from the cooktop. Go get her, someone yelled from the office. Several things crashed to the floor. Calvin put up one hell of a fight. Mere seconds had passed when Mia's pursuer rounded the corner. She slammed that skillet into his chest, causing him to fly into the wall. He recovered and reached for her arm. The skillet crashed down onto his head with a backward swipe. This time his body hit the ground right on top of the gun. Damn. Her feet pounded on the hardwood floor as she raced for the front entrance, aiming to find some type of reinforcements. An armed man came off the path to the porch. She slammed the front door, locking it. Keys jiggled in the tumbler. Mia ran top speed toward the kitchen ahead of a spray of bullets that landed in the cabinets. She slid toward the island like a baseball player trying to reach home plate. She scrambled around the corner, bolting to the deck and made it to the table. Nowhere to run, a man with an ivory complexion said as a Latino guy calmly stepped over the threshold onto the deck as though nothing out of the ordinary had transpired. Don't be so sure of that. She snatched the Ruger, aimed, and pulled the trigger 5 times, taking out the biggest threat. Mia didn't wait for the Latino man's advancing body to hit the ground. She hit the stairs. The ivory man took cover in the dining room and held up on a perfect vantage spot. 3 armed men raced toward her. Damn, how many did they send? Mia's heart sank, but adrenaline kicked in as she turned back. She had to make it to the Lincoln. Miss Atwood, don't do it, he yelled as she climbed from the patio chair to the railing. He aimed his Glock and fired. Mia took a flying leap from the banister and dove straight into the water. Get your copy today. It's on Kindle Unlimited, only $1.99 everywhere else. That is The Confection Assignment by Karen D. Bradley. So that's a tribe member as well. And then I'm going to read a little bit before bingo, read a little bit from another tribe member who is on assignment right now, preparing for us to do submissions for awards. So she's doing that. King of Chatham by London St. Charles. Let me stop sharing that and let me find the screens. I'm trying to get good at this, but let's, here we go. Let me make the words a little bigger. You know, I got the glasses in, but we're on the screen. King of Chatham. The touch of Baba Godfrey's arms encircling Zuri's body caused a bone-wrenching chill to course through her veins. Despite the sweltering African heat, she froze, became almost as stiff as Mama Subi, who lay beneath the graveyard's red soil. Your mama loved you so much, Baba said. His sweaty round face pressed firmly against her cheek. The thick accented English tinged with a hint of confidence that made Zuri's insides cringe. I know she feels your presence and is happy that you are home in Africa to take your rightful place as Digimon's wife. Zuri didn't respond. Digging the heels of her shoes into the manicured grass of her family's elaborate home garden, filled with multicolored sunbirds perched on the morning glory bushes with white and purple flowers and cloves that left a pungent aromatic spice in the air. All sights, scents, and sounds she left behind. The last words Mama said to Zuri before helping her flee Tanzania 5 years ago was, I may never see you again, but at least I know you will be alive and safe. You will be free of what will bind you here. She had broken her promise never to return. But despite the dangers of being on Tanzanian soil again, there was no way that Zuri would miss her mama's funeral. Mama Subi's eternal soul could rest in peace, knowing the sacrifices she made for her only daughter were not in vain. Zuri tried to ease out of Baba's fleshy arms, but he tightened his grip. The black kaba and slit-style African dress that cradled her hourglass curves melted against her skin under the pressure of his intense hold. She didn't need or want his comfort. Zuri knew every bit of it came with strings attached, and she was no one's puppet. Had it not been for Baba, she wouldn't have been separated from her mama and the rest of the family for the past 5 years, trying to force her to marry Djamon Aku, a man she hardly knew, was something her mother would have never done. You have skirted your responsibility long enough, Baba whispered in a stern voice. It is time to let go of that school foolishness. Never, Zuri shouted, louder than intended, breaking free of his embrace. I graduate in 2 weeks. Zuri's second-level teacher and clandestine guardian angel, Mama Winnie, swooped in and grabbed her hand. Godfrey, let me talk to her, she suggested, guiding Zuri away from her father before he could protest. The robust woman with a snatched waistline, smooth charcoal skin that belied her age, and teeth whiter than pure snow, wrapped an arm around Zuri's shoulder. My love, I know it hurts. Try not to draw attention to yourself. It will make your departure less noticeable. Zuri nodded and forced the unshed tears to remain at bay. Thank you for always knowing what I need, even after all this time. Zuri smiled, sliding her hand in Mama Winnie's. No wonder you and my mama work so well together. We still are, she said, winking at Zuri as they strolled hand in hand to the opposite side of the garden where fewer mourners had gathered. What does that mean, Mama Winnie? You will see soon enough, my love. Mama Subi came from a wealthy family, and they had set Godfrey up quite well, establishing long-lasting prosperity. Zuri's parents' 30-year marriage started with a $500,000 dowry, a herd of cattle, and a 5-bedroom house where Godfrey still resided. What is wrong? Mama Winnie asked, placing a hand on Zuri's lap. She gave Mama Winnie a half smile as her heart swelled with emotion. I miss you already. You are the only real connection I have to Mama. Her life, her thoughts, Zuri mused, laying her head against Mama Winnie's forearm. It feels like I am leaving for the first time all over again, sneaking off to escape the danger from my own Baba, who is supposed to love and protect me. Zuri lifted her head, gazing into Mama Winnie's chestnut eyes filled with wisdom. I have heard of fathers being their daughter's hero or their daughter's first love, as they say in America. Why am I not allowed the same love? You are, sweetheart, Mama Winnie cupped a hand to Zuri's cheek. I do not think Godfrey is capable of showing you. He only knows the way of our ancestors. That is his way of expressing his love for you. But Mama did not agree. Mama Winnie angled her body towards Zuri. Subi wanted better for you. She risked her life to make sure you did not have to endure certain cultural practices. Like being forced to marry and remain uneducated, Zuri commented, shifting on the folding chair, causing it to squeak from her efforts. She felt the heat of the elders' orbs bearing down upon her and wondered why they were so fixated on her presence. Did they not expect Zuri to attend her mother's funeral? Those are only part of it. Zuri leaned forward, catching Djamon's gazing, almost glorying at her, shifting as though preparing to move in again. She lifted an index finger to ward him off. He frowned, and it caused his handsome features to take on an ugly state. She would get to him when she was ready, and not a minute sooner. Placing her focus back on Mama Winnie as whispers of conversations echoed across the garden, Zuri asked, what do you mean by only part of it? A chill whipped through her so strong she shivered. Subi sent you away so you would not have to undergo circumcision. You mean mutilation, Zuri countered in such a tone it caused the mourners to zoom in on her outburst for yet a second time. Lowering her voice, she said, that practice has been banned for over 2 decades, as with forced marriages, but they still exist. Mommy shot a wary glance at Zuri. We have to protect ourselves because the men will not. They welcome this practice because it almost always guarantees them a young virgin and a faithful wife. They prize that above all else. Zuri wrung her hands, frowning. I remember some of the girls at school talking in a hushed manner about a secret initiation into womanhood where they learned about the duties of a wife. Mama Winnie nodded. That is how it starts. At least it did for me. She winced, rubbing her hands in a circular motion on each of her thighs. Subi overheard Godfrey talking with the Aku family about getting you prepared for Dijomon. You were only 11 then. That is when Subi reached out to me, even though it put her life in danger, going against Godfrey's beliefs. Zuri inverted her lips. The bitter, chalky taste of lipstick whirled on the tip of her tongue. Mama could have been killed for helping me? An uncomfortable silence permeated around them. Mama Winnie wrapped arms around her midriff, lowering her eyes to the ground. The implications of what Zuri's mother had accomplished settled into her soul. Subi suffered for a long time, but she died at peace, knowing you were safe. That gave her joy. She would not be pleased you undid her life sacrifice by setting foot on Tanzanian soil, even for her. What are you saying? Zuri whispered, failing at the attempt to control her breathing. Did Baba kill my mama? That was King of Chatham, part of the Kings of the Castle series done by the tribe. And that was written by London St. Charles. So I'm hoping that you guys will pick that one up, and I hope you enjoyed the reading from the 2 of our tribe members. And we are going to swing into a couple of games of bingo. I'm going to stop the live streaming. Hold on. And we're going to bring it in to have a little bit of fun and games with the book bingo. Let's see here, because I want to do the recording.